Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flizanes, your empowerment strategist, producer, and winemaker. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries and even the relationship with that word. Today is a solo show, but before we get started, I have two announcements. The first and most important being that we are still in the early bird time frame of the Embodied Healing Intensive happening in October in Redondo Beach, California. May of 2024 is the early bird time zone. So if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, get your ticket. The price goes up on June 1st. jjflizanes.com/EHI, or you can just go to my website, jjflizanes.com, and under the tab for live events or connect, you will see the page. So first, I want to say thank you to those of you that are already signed up. I have probably a third of the room already full. So we have 2/3 still available. And I'm excited about this event. If you want to learn more, please go back one episode before this to the Embodied Healing Intensive. That's where I talk about the event in more detail. And I'll say this here, like I said it last week, please don't let money be the reason why you don't come. I'm kind of tired of hearing, in a funny way, I'm kind of tired of hearing every time I meet one of you or talk to you, oh, I've always wanted to come to a live event. All right, this is it. Come, step up. Let's stop upper limiting. We will figure it out. I will find you a roommate situation at the hotel. You can use points to get here for your airline, or if you're driving, you can find someone to drive with you and ask me if you need a different payment plan. I'm happy to accommodate. It won't be less. It'll be the same or a little bit more because of the payment plan, but we can space it out over more months if you need to, just to make sure you show up. So the next announcement is that I am pouring wine, my high vibrational wines, in Paso Robles, California, on June 14th. It's Friday, June 14th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Pacific Wines, where I make the wine. And if anyone lives near or around or wants to visit, they were doing an entire wine event that day, 5 to 7 at Pacific Wines, where everyone who uses Pacific Wines gets to have a booth and share and sell their wine. So if you want to come visit, I'd love to see you. I'd love to meet you. All right, let's talk about boundaries. First, I want to talk about this word because I have experienced clients, friends, emotional right brain people who hear the word boundary and feel badly. They go, oh no, boundaries like cutting off my flow. It's cutting off my love. It's cutting off my energy. I don't like to feel restricted, and I don't want to judge people on whether or not they deserve my love or not. Therefore, I don't like the word boundary. And I thought about that, and I understand that concept. And the word boundary can mean protective for sure. And if you're listening to this and you think, well, I need more protection, I don't want this show to encourage that belief system. I want you to think about boundaries as preservation, not protection. I want you to think of boundaries as energy management, love management, self-respect management, and not think of it as protecting yourselves. Because from the moment that we start to believe that we are a victim to life and other people, that energy is disempowering. So already the viewpoint, and I think I talked about this in a previous show. There are two shows that are coming to mind. One is The Energy Underneath, and the second one is 3 Reasons Why You're Still in Victim Mentality. When we think that we're at risk, that other people will and can hurt us, we're automatically in a position of being defensive and being in a position of trying to protect ourselves. And for those of you that have been following the show for a while, you know that the two needed belief systems in order for us to heal anything are that number one, we feel safe, and number two, we love ourselves. And most people give lip service to both of those, where they don't actually feel safe and they don't actually love themselves. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether or not you love yourself or not. I have no idea. But I can tell you that most people don't feel safe. Now, little by little over time in each situation, we can understand how we are safe and we are always safe. And what boundaries will do, boundaries will be the indicators of when our energy management or our love or respect management is out of balance. Because when we're looking at life, when we're looking at circumstances to tell us or validate us or to give us something we're searching for, again, the idea of looking outside of yourself makes you a victim already, which makes you powerless. And my job, my desire, my goal, my mission, my life purpose is to empower you. And empowerment comes from understanding that you create your own reality. Empowerment comes from understanding that you get to make choice. Now, sometimes it may look like you don't have a choice, but I implore you to consider that there are choices you can make that you don't even know about. Maybe there are ways to look at and interpret situations that change the dynamic of the whole thing. So in this conversation about boundaries, I'm going to kind of go in and out with some personal examples, but there are 8 different types of boundaries that I'm going to cover today. And again, I want you to just sort of listen and feel, and if you want to go back later and take notes, that's fine. But when we're looking at boundaries from the place of cutting people off, that's not what you're doing. You're not, for those of you that you're full of love, you want to give everybody love, and a boundary makes you feel like you're cutting yourself off. You get to decide what that means for you. You get to decide, and you get to change your mind at any given time based on your experience to whatever we're talking about. So let's just give an example. So one of my friends, she's an overgiver. She's definitely a rescuer. But at the same time, she becomes a victim very quickly when people in her life aren't giving her what she wants. So to her, it's this unspoken, it's not just to her. It's not every one of you that is a people pleaser. Here's the unspoken belief system of a people pleaser. I'm going to do this all for you in expectation that one day you're going to also do this for me. Now, no one normally lays that out verbally. No one asks or clarifies or gets an agreement verbally or written about that. We just do it because we assume that if I give you love in a certain way, you're going to give love back to me. If I give you my time and attention over the course of however many years, days, months, whatever, you're going to do the same for me. The problem with this belief system is that we have a couple different love languages. A, we have a lot of different factors that create our interpretation. B, and C, you haven't checked in with that person. You didn't say, hey, before I start to give to you and take care of you and cook for you and clean for you and whatever you're doing for that person, one day you'll do this for me too, right? We don't ask that because it's part of our learned behavior from our parents, or part of it is protecting ourselves and prostituting ourselves because we think we're going to get love at the other end of it. Because in that case, that's what we would do. But that's where this assuming goes really wrong. So in this conversation of boundaries, we have to get clear about the energy underneath your desire, your decision to have better boundaries. And I'll just use me as an example. To start out, looking at my patterns and behaviors when it comes to my energy management of work and life balance, it's kind of a workaholism. And that I don't use that lightly, because when I look around at my life, I see that I help people. I help change people's lives. I enjoy what I do. I feel like it heals me too. And it's making a meaningful difference in the vibration of the planet and empowering and elevating consciousness. And I currently don't have kids. So besides my cats and my partner and my house, I don't have any other obligations that I have to attend to other than you. So when I look at that and I think, well, where's the balance? Well, what else do I want to be doing? I've recently added in my Qigong class on Mondays and not doing Marco Polos before 10 a.m. and not touching my computer or my iPad on Sundays and not even checking my emails on Mondays. And I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I've had a autoresponder on my email on Fridays and Mondays for the past couple of years, probably the length of time I've lived in this house, that says I'm out of the office. Yet I'm not out of the office. There are times I'm out of the office, but I put that on there because I don't want the expectation of me responding. I want the freedom to choose to respond versus the expectation that I'm going to get back to you right away. Well, now I'm finally honoring that, at least on Mondays, where I will not be checking emails. So, and that's all because when I look at what are the things I want to accomplish in my life, what are the things I want to experience or do, and am I out of balance? The answer was yes. So I've made different scheduling and commitments, and I've made them out loud. I've made them to my groups. I've let them know this is what I'm committing to, because even everyone, in my opinion, needs accountability. I think I mentioned this on the show with Allison when we were talking about her core wounds. And I said, because of my rewiring your core wound pattern program, can you heal some of this stuff on your own? Absolutely. But just like when you're working out with a personal trainer who's standing over top of you, with the same exact programming, you will work harder when someone's watching. You will stretch yourself when someone is there encouraging you to stretch yourself. And you will absolutely do less when it's just yourself. That's just a fact. It's everybody. There's no shame to that. Even I, as a personal trainer, do not push myself as hard as if I was training myself. I wish I had me as a trainer. But okay, so let's go to boundaries. So we're going to start with physical boundaries. So you want to protect your personal space and your body. That's pretty obvious that our system, our brain, our reptilian brain will come online very quickly when we feel danger. Part of it is that survival need, and part of it's going to be intuitive. You're going to feel energetically when something's off, when something's unsafe, when something challenges you in that way. And I would recommend that you don't override it, but that you take a breath and just check in with if it's truly a threat. I don't want you to not trust your body's need to survive. But for those of you that did whole brain living, those of you that did awaken your dream life, those of you that have worked with me, you know that there are 4 parts of your brain, and the character 2 part of your brain represents the one that's always nervous, always trying to protect you. And he or she is not incorrect, but they do stop you from growing. If you think of everything as dangerous, if everything is, I'm thinking about a couple of you who are clients or have been clients in my membership who wouldn't let yourself cry. Crying felt like you were going to die. Like literally, we understand logically that makes no sense. No one has ever died of crying. But because of the emotion that comes into your body, and because you now feel out of control, the brain signals that you're not safe, but you are. You're just uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And crying or allowing your emotions to come out makes you feel out of control, and you are a control freak or a control addict, which a lot of you, and I've challenged that in myself, and I'm sure in some areas I am, but generally speaking, I've acknowledged and healed some of that, so I'm less than I've been before. But most of us have at least one addiction, and that addiction is usually control, because you have this illusion that you have it. You don't have control. You have control over nothing except what you think, how you interpret what you think, how you feel about what you interpret, and then what you do about it, whether it be an action, a word. Those are all within your control. But you have no control over what's happening outside of you at any given time. But based on law of attraction, you do have influence. So you can decide that your frequency needs to change so that you're in alignment with better things. So physical boundaries is the first kind of boundaries. Pretty basic, personal space, feeling safe, don't touch my body, don't touch my hair, whatever, what have you. Okay, so that's the first easy type of boundary. Now we're going to go to the next one, which is a little bit more complicated. It's the emotional boundaries. It's your thoughts and your feelings. Now, some people want to say protect your thoughts and your feelings. And I'm going to say, again, going into this, if your energy about boundaries is protection, you're automatically a victim. You're automatically at the hand of somebody else who can do something to you, make you feel whatever, that actually isn't true. It's not true at all. So when it comes to your emotional boundaries, it's your job to check in with you and to see how you feel, to see what your needs are. So for those of you that haven't been with me for a while, I have a free download. It's called the Feelings and Needs List, and there's a whole course that goes with it. There's an episode, I think it's 115 or 113 or 118 on Fit to Love. Like way back in the archives. And it was called the 3 Steps to Effective Communication. And the feelings and needs list is a staple. If you've been to my event, you have one. If you've been in any of my programs, you have one. The feelings and needs list is your Bible to, or your roadmap to, any feeling that you have that's negative is there because a need is not being met. So your job, your responsibility is to figure out what your need is that's not being met and then get the need met, but not necessarily by asking someone else to help you. Now, they may be able to help you, but you can't blame anybody. So when it comes to emotional boundaries, you first have to start and think about your own feelings. A lot of times, unconsciously, we expect our loved ones, our coworkers, our friends to automatically know or guess or assume that something is going to make us feel a certain way. And astrologically, as a Pisces with many Sages, one, of course, being in my moon, yeah, sometimes I'm very direct and sometimes people take it the wrong way. And all I can do is notice and say, I'm sorry, that's not how I meant it. And sometimes I can feel into how they, if we're live in person, feel into how they received that. And that's why, for me as a podcaster, a lot of people don't like me. They hear me and go, whoa, I trigger them. But I get pleasure in that. I get not in them not liking me, but I get pleasure in knowing that if I trigger you, you have a wound. And I didn't put it there, so it's not my fault. If I trigger you, you got something to work on. We all do. But when it comes to emotional boundaries, it is your job for you to know why you're having the feeling that you're having, because what need is not being met. And then you have all the power in the world to figure out 3 different ways, 3 different strategies to get that need met. So if you don't have this download, it's jjflizanes.com/feelings list. So feelings with an S, feelings list. And you can get the download. And my recommendation is to print 30 copies of it. And I'm not joking. Do a practice. Once a day for a week or two, put the date in the top of the corner. And then ask yourself at some given, and you can even change the time of day. Sometimes do it in the morning when you wake up. Sometimes do it in the afternoon on a break. Sometimes do before you go to bed. And just ask yourself, just check in. Do a little emotional meditation. Take 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Relax your body. And figure out what you're feeling. And then circle it. And then if it's a negative feeling, ask yourself, well, what need or the perception of a need is not being met that's creating this feeling? And then you can circle the need. Now, I'm making this sound so simple, but anyone that's been working with me will tell you it is simple, but it is not easy because we are not programmed to think this way. So you immediately want to blame other people. And then your strategy wants to say, well, that person needs to change or that person needs to do something differently in order for me to feel safe or feel better. But that's not how it works. So you can take the dive. I'd recommend getting the course, the Anatomy of Emotion course. Get the free download, if nothing else, and work with it. Listen to the episode. Again, it's either 113, 115, or 118 on Fit to Love. And it'll go through this a little bit more specifically with you because I have 6 other boundaries to go through right now. But when you're thinking about protecting your thoughts and feelings, so let's go to the place where you know you have a wound. So if I have a wound of being devalued, which I do, and I know that I've worked on that wound, and I know, I'll give you actually even more specific situation. So because my love language is quality time, and even though intellectually I understand and know when someone doesn't visit, that's not them rejecting me. I understand that intellectually. But I have such a deep need for connection and to be seen and heard in certain ways with certain people that it's a slower healing process. So in order for me to protect myself from being triggered, even though I'm still working on it and it's getting better, I may make different choices by not having the conversation. I may stop inviting people to come visit because every time I ask, they say no. And even though every time I understand they still love me, that doesn't mean it doesn't trigger me but I'm not blaming them for that. It's my hurt. It's my sadness. And as I process that, sometimes in the process of healing a wound, you have to stop doing the thing that made it the wound in the first place. It's like when you fall down and you cut your wrist or you get a slash on your arm or something. We all understand that the white blood cells have to come to the surface to where the cut is, which means you're going to have inflammation to repair the tissue and to repair the damage. And then after that, you'll get a bruise. So we all understand the physical system that happens in a wound. Well, when you get an emotional wound, sometimes you need to check out for a little while so that you can kind of lick your wounds, so to speak, right? And allow your body to, and allow your brain and allow your heart to dissipate some of the attachment to whatever it is you're reacting to. So the emotional boundaries, I just caution, number one, if you are not taking responsibility for your own emotions and what your needs are, and finding out ways to get your need met. And I've told this story so many times. It was with my former relationship. So I'm going to tell it to you again because it's worth repeating, because there are a couple lessons in this. And this actually is a good boundary example also. So on a family reunion, I went to, I eat very differently than the rest of the people there. And I also knew that it was going to be in a place where there wasn't going to be any cell reception. I wasn't going to have a car. And that I also want to talk. I want to connect a lot more deeply than other people do. So when I thought about the event, my whole body concaved and thought, oh, I don't want to do this. So I had to uncover, because I did want to. I did want to go. I did want to be present because quality time is my love language. So then I thought, well, how do I get over this icky feeling that I have in these different ways? And the first icky feeling, I had to dissect it and kind of break it down. And the first one was, again, the food, obviously, the feeling of, okay, well, I eat really differently. What am I going to eat? And it just so happened that we were being put into a cabin that had a kitchen. And I was being picked up by somebody who could stop at the grocery store with me and I could buy some groceries. I never ask anyone else to be different or serve something different because I'm there. But I do need to have the option of bringing my own food or, contributing something that I can eat so that I feel free. I don't want to feel like a burden for others and feel annoying, but I also don't want to feel restricted or being punished because I'm different. So that was the first thing that I figured out. And I thought, okay, well, what's the solution? The solution is go to the grocery store, get your stuff, put it in the refrigerator, and you'll have plenty of things to eat if there's nothing for you to eat. All right, that got taken care of. That's a pretty big deal. I felt better about that. Then the next thing was about feeling trapped. So because I didn't have a car and not feeling free, like I could leave, like if I wanted to go use the phone, there was no reception. So what ended up happening was I decided that if I felt that way, I would rent a car. Now it would cost more money, but it would create the ease that I needed to feel comfortable, to feel free. So that was step 2. Now the last one, which was surprising and funny, is that I wanted connection. I wanted deep connection. Well, you can't force anyone to have deep connection with you. You can't force anyone to have a conversation with you on a subject matter they're not interested in. So how do I get that need met when it looks like it requires another person? I decided that I would go within and I would use it like a meditation retreat, that I would take a journal. I would write in the journal every day, and I would just basically be with myself and use it and pretend, because it would feel better to pretend that it was a meditation retreat where I wasn't supposed to speak than to feel like it's a big family gathering where everyone's chit-chatting and then I feel like I'm talking about nothing because I'm not a surface level chit-chatter. So what ended up happening was that because I had released expectation of others, I ended up attracting a few people who wanted to have a deeper conversation. It was lovely. It all worked out because I got my own needs met first. I made sure that I eliminated all the feelings that got created about the ideas that I had, the interpretation that I had about what was going to happen. So when it comes to these emotional boundaries, you have to start with what your needs are. And another exercise you can do if you download the feelings and needs list is just go directly to the needs list. Forget the scenario, forget the feelings, and just start circling all of the needs in your life that aren't currently being met, but you would like them to be met. There's some needs in there that you might not have met, but you don't care. I want you to find the needs that you intuitively, emotionally want to have met, but are not being met, because that will give you a great starting place with how to problem solve, feeling more empowered and getting those needs met, and changing the perception if someone is giving you something, but for some reason you can't see it, or you've decided that the story is one way. So even though that's probably the biggest one, and we could go on and on about that, just know that emotional boundaries is not I invite you not to make it about protecting yourself, like others can hurt you. If others can hurt you, the wound is already there. They didn't put it there. When part of the work in the Rewire program, and it keeps bleeding into, as it needs to, into the mastermind, into like when we look at when we're triggered, it always goes back to a core wound. It could be 50 years later, I promise. If it hasn't been healed, it goes back to a core wound. So when we understand that, we stop reacting in the moment. We stop telling stories about what's going on right now, and we go back and heal the root, the beginning, heal the concept and the belief system. That's what we're doing here. So I implore you to, again, really think about and feel into how much of your emotions are you not attending to, and you're waiting for someone else to fix it, because then we're in victim mentality and you're never going to feel empowered. Okay, verbal boundaries. Protect how we speak and what we discuss. Yeah, so this is a fun one. This is a frequency conversation. And this actually just happened to me today. I was looking at an email and I wanted to send it to somebody, but I'm not sure what that person's position is on this subject matter. And it's pretty dicey. And I thought, well, I want to send it because it could save a life. But if they don't agree with me, then they may be offended. And it goes back to the pandemic and clients that I had and people that I was working with and just noticing life in general. And here's my quote. It's a really good JJ quote that I got while I was rollerblading. And here it goes. If they're not asking, they're not listening. So it doesn't matter if you want to tell somebody something that's good for them. If they're not asking, they're not listening. Now you can ask permission. Can I share something with you? You can note that there's something going on with them. Maybe they're having a problem and you have a solution and you ask permission. Would you be interested? I have something that could help you. Would you be interested in that? And they'll say yes or they'll say no. But it's not your job to educate the world because they may not believe what you believe. They may not agree with what you agree with. So when it comes to verbal boundaries, you have to remember it's not your job. No one gave you that role of going out and just telling people what you think because you haven't pre-qualified if they even agree with you or care to listen. So that's in both directions. But I would say mostly verbal boundaries because you can't control others. So if someone's coming and shoving their opinion down your throat and you don't agree, you can just smile. You can say, thank you for sharing. If it triggers you, it triggers something different inside of you, and that's a different conversation. But generally, you can just listen to people who have difference of opinion. If you are solid in what you believe, then just let them flap their mouths. Who cares? Say thank you for caring. Hear what's underneath, what they're saying. Go back to the energy underneath show. If they're concerned about you, we just did this in the Rewire group. We're dealing with love languages right now. And someone said, well, I was curious why love language is important. Well, love language is important because it's how you interpret somebody giving you love. And there are many people whose love language is different than their parents, me, but many other people. I can interpret my parents as love. I never didn't interpret their love incorrectly. I never felt unloved. I always felt loved. But there are people, clients in my past, whose parent was acts of service and their love language was quality time. And so their parent was never around and they took that to mean their parent didn't love them. Why is it important to understand love languages? Because if you saw that your parent loved you by going out and providing for you and doing acts of service, then you would see the truth of the story. But when your love language is quality time and you're looking back at your parents thinking you didn't love me, you're wrong because you're not understanding how they're giving love. If you understand that they were giving it to you in a different way, yeah, it wasn't your way. It was their way. So that's going to change how we interpret things. And that's really important. So when it comes to verbal boundaries, just when you can, think before you speak. When you can, just go within yourself and ask, where am I getting with this? Am I reacting to somebody? Do I want to help them? Are they going to receive my help? Because there's nothing worse than getting excited about something and presenting it to someone who doesn't understand. When you come to one of my live events, and even in any of my groups, but definitely my live event, I usually tell people, do not share what you did here with anybody when you leave, unless they ask. And you have to double check that they can receive it. If they are going to think it's weird and judge you, or it's going to trigger them and they're going to get afraid for you or feel scared, they're going to try to sabotage you. And not because they're conscious of it, but because that's an upper limit for them. When people go on diets, I remember I had a client she was doing really well, and someone in her life, I don't remember who, kept trying to give her cookies. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, they're trying to sabotage you because you're getting results and they feel bad about themselves. And so they want to bring you back down to their level. So they're giving you cookies." Now, this isn't conscious. Sometimes it is, but this is more a frequency, a consciousness level. So be aware and be present with when you speak. Be deliberate, be intentional, come from your heart. Try not to overreact. Try not to be defensive. Limit what you share with people when they don't agree or understand or ask. So verbal boundaries protect you from getting your own feelings hurt because you're reading the crowd. Know your audience. I did this once with my last partner. I was feeling a lot of love. I was so appreciative. I was so happy. Literally, I was just having like an elated moment. And he had come home from work for lunch, and I decided to share. And then, of course, the thing out of his mouth was all the negative things about why I wasn't including other people, like from his circles, into this thing that I was doing. And it was all negative. And I did feel sad. But when I thought about it later, I didn't check in with where he was. He wasn't in a place to receive this joy. He was in work mode, trying to come home, get lunch done really quick, take a break from work, and then go back. He wasn't in a space to receive or experience what I was experiencing. Now, some people would look at that and say, well, that was mean of him. Why'd he do that? He acted from where he was. It's on me to assess that he wasn't in the best place for me to share this. That's how you take responsibility for your own emotions and for your frequency and for how other people react to you. Not everyone is going to interpret what you say the same, and not everyone can receive or hear what you're saying the way that you're saying it. So it is your job to determine how you manage your own energy and emotions by deciding and pre-qualifying, in a way, people that are around you. Are these people that are going to really understand this? Are they going to appreciate it? Are they going to feel threatened by it? Or are they going to be confused by it? Or do they just not care? Because if you're sharing something with someone who doesn't care, and then you get offended, that's on you. You didn't check in. You didn't protect yourself. You didn't qualify or pre-qualify if you were going to get what you wanted out of it. Because let's be honest, if you're sharing something with someone, you want something in return. You want acknowledgement, you want celebration, you want validation, you want something. And I'm saying, come back to yourself and give it to yourself. And then be very deliberate and discerning about how you share your energy. And of course, like always, find a tribe of people who will listen and accept you for who you are and allow you to grow. And it may not be your family, it may not even be your friends. It probably isn't anybody you work with. So that's one of the biggest compliments I always get at my events and when people come together is there's an instant connection and allowing of other people, because we're not connected to you. Like, we're not attached to you. We want you to be the best you can be. We have no skin in the game. Nothing bad happens to us if you get better. But sometimes in your family relationships, in your friendships, in your work situations, if you grow, it threatens other people because their insecurities come online, or because you may win out on a job that they're up for, or your growing may make them feel stupid or guilty or less than or lazy. If you're losing weight and getting healthy, and then they're going to look at themselves and think, oh my God, well, what am I doing? So they want you to fail so they feel better. And again, this isn't conscious. Nobody wants to be mean or to be a jerk. Really, at the heart of all of it, it comes out of pain. Anytime we're not nice to people or we want ill for them, it's out of a pain that we have. And it's our job for ourselves to uncover what that is and to heal it. All right, time boundaries. This is pretty self-explanatory. Protect how I spend my time. So just like I have mentioned, and I want you to think of time as energy and balance. If you're working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, yet you have a family and you want to spend more time with them, then you can't really bring work home. I mean, you can, but do you want to? So we have to look at the balance of that. And you get to decide what the balance is. There is no right and there is no wrong. If you don't have a family and you love what you do and you don't want to spend time with friends, then work 24/7. That's up to you. You don't have to do any of this. These are all determined based on what you want in your life. What would you like to experience? Do you need to heal something? Does your body need to heal? Do you need some downtime? Do you need some parasympathetic time, which is stress-free time, in order for the body to heal? So think about your time boundaries. And I have decided the Sunday and Monday thing. I love my Sunday, Monday thing that I'm doing. And I was nervous the first week not having my iPad or my computer for an entire day. So I asked my neighbors over for brunch. I'm like, you guys want to come over for brunch? Because I thought if I just cooked and cleaned and was with people that it would go easier. And it was fine. And it's fine. It's actually, I over dramatized it. It's not as big of a deal. And I really actually like it. I like being disconnected. Back when I first started my company and I was personal training and I'd moved to California, I was involved with a fitness travel company, which I could still do today, where you travel to a resort and you can take a friend and it's free, but I have to teach classes. And I used to do that all the time, but that was back in like 2001, where there wasn't Wi-Fi at the resorts. I, of course, had a cell phone, but it didn't work in Jamaica. And I didn't have to drive anywhere. So it was a true unplug. And I would do it 2 to 3 times a year for a week to basically recharge my batteries. So every person's going to be different. Different astrological signs are going to be different. Some of you are going to need more time than others. Different human design profiles are going to be different. So you get to decide what works for you, but you do want to experiment because you may not know. So try it out. Try something different for your time boundaries. Try creating a schedule or a new schedule, slashing certain things, saying no to certain things. No is probably one of the best words most of us can say because some of us just overgive and overdo and want to do everything. All right, next is work boundaries. Protect my limits in the workplace. Your work is not your home. Your work is not your family. Your work, they want something from you. They want you to produce in some way, shape, or form. And for your producing, they pay you. Okay, very simple. So when we have expectations of having a workplace that satisfies all of our needs, I think you may find that it falls short and you might not get your needs met because maybe you're expecting your workplace to be your family, to be your friends, to be your social place, and it might not be. So just check in with the kind of culture at your work and how happy you are there or how unhappy you are there. If you're prostituting yourself for money because it's a good pay, but you don't actually love it. But just be clear that it's work. Now, if you work for yourself, same thing. I love what I do. And the reason why I stopped doing Marco's before 10 o'clock in the morning was because I'm on the West Coast and a lot of my clients are on the East Coast or in the middle of the country or in different countries. And so, of course, I'd wake up every morning and there'd be a bunch of Marco Polos. So I'd make my coffee and then I would sit and I would problem solve and listen to and acknowledge and help everybody who came on hours before me in the group to help get their needs met. And while there's no problem to that, I start my day being focused on putting out fires and giving to other people before giving to myself. And again, your cup needs to be full before you can share it with others. Otherwise, you're trying to share from an empty cup. So that is why now, even though sometimes, whether it be a personal Marco here or there, I will check it. But otherwise, I spend a lot of time giving to myself, preparing my day, doing my meditation, going to the gym or going to run on the beach or doing some exercises, feeding the cats, going outside, going for a hike. I spend the morning on me. I make sure that I fill my cup first before I give it to others. So just check in with yourself about your work boundaries. Okay, the next one is spiritual boundaries. Protect my values and what I believe in. Protect my values and what I believe in. So I invite you to be flexible on this. Flexible meaning I would not encourage you to do something that felt out of alignment with yourself and your integrity. But I would ask you to also know what your beliefs are. Know what's important to you. So that way you can be very clear that when something challenges it, you can say no, or no thank you, or that doesn't feel right to me. You have to speak up. But I also feel and believe that even with whatever spiritual beliefs you have, you can still be respectful of other people's spiritual beliefs. I can participate in any church or synagogue or mosque or whatever. I can do. That's fine. It isn't my beliefs, but I can respect that it's somebody else's. And if you're very challenged on this topic in some way, shape, or form, then it might mean that you're afraid that your belief systems aren't correct. It might mean that you have trauma around your spiritual beliefs, that you've had so much pain that even looking at it brings up more pain. The goal in healing is that you're different in the same situation, not that you change situations. That's when you know you're on the right track. When you can allow others to be who they are while you're being who you are, and there's no big deal. You're not threatened. You're not feeling insecure. You're not feeling blamed or shamed or guilt-tripped or wronged. You can respect while keeping a strong integrity and about whatever it is that you believe. And then, of course, yes, not participating in things that go against that. No, thank you. That doesn't really go with what I do, whatever it may be. But so far, at least, all of these boundaries do need to be set both by you first in understanding how you operate and what you need, but also with requests or with verbal conversation or even written agreements, if you will, so that no one is going to be defensive to you, take it personally. You're not going to overreact. Please don't wait until someone calls you out and then there's a big blow up. If you know ahead of time that you're not going to want to do something, speak up now. Apologize for this miscommunication. Say, I don't think I'm going to feel comfortable with that. Are you okay with that? This isn't about you. This isn't personal, but I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, but speak up. Definitely use your voice. All right, there's two more. Financial boundaries, protect my finances and assets. So when it comes to your finances, you're obviously in charge, and notice when you're feeling threatened by money things, and also notice if you come from a place of scarcity. I think that's probably the biggest thing I would say about this financial piece and financial boundaries, and even using the word boundaries, which I'm not crazy about in this situation. You can have a budget. You can have a high budget. You can have a low budget. You can have a medium budget. You can have a bucket, different buckets to pay off different things, to do different things. You can have all kinds of different ways to manage your money. And when it comes to your finances and your assets, I do want you to take an approach of taking responsibility for without being in scarcity. So please, I've got some resources on scarcity that can clear some scarcity, but this is a thing. And scarcity, depending on how you're coming to me and what your belief system is, money is energy. And in fact, money is so energy that we keep printing it. We need more, we print more. So like money is there, energy is there, and there's not a finite amount of it. There's enough to go around, and a lot of people can have more money. But what stops us from allowing it in is this negative opinion about it and this idea that I have to hold on with both hands or I'm never going to have it again. So when we can understand its fluidity and its flow and its life force and its energy, then we can trust a little deeper and go back to where are we? Where's our frequency? Where's our belief about money and trust in divine and universe and law of attraction? Where is that? Because I'm the creator of my own reality. So if I want more, I can get more. I just have to change what I think about and how I feel and possibly what I do. Yeah, no small feat there, right? Okay, the last one, sexual boundaries. Protect my safety and my preferences. This is definitely, if you were on the summit, you heard me talk about this in depth with Dr. Jane Gwynn. And I think she and I also talked about it in Healing Sexual Trauma, which is another podcast episode that was done somewhat recently. And we talk about safety because that is definitely a place where all of our stuff comes to light. I mean, safety in the bedroom is a big deal. And our core wounds are right there with us. And if we don't understand what they are and how they control us and how we react in negative ways that causes disconnection, then it's harder to try to make connection. You have to in my opinion, you have to understand that in order for you to know how to make connection. You have to understand, I knew in my past relationship that some of what the core wounds were, and I understood that when I requested certain things or I asked for certain things, that what was interpreted was judgment about not being good enough or not being smart enough. And that would make someone shut down. I understood that, so I didn't take it personally. But what I didn't get was connection because I didn't know how, because there wasn't two people involved in how to be connected and to move through these core wounds that end up shutting us down or making us revert back to behaviors and patterns that aren't about connection. They're about protection, which is why this whole conversation about boundaries, I'm very careful to want to continue to encourage you not to walk around this earth as if you have to protect yourself from everything because you're a victim of the world. That isn't what I want with this. But at the same time, we do need to respect ourselves, to love ourselves, to know ourselves at a level that we can make decisions about what is best for us. And that is how I want you to think about boundaries. It's about energy preservation, energy balance, love and respect balance, and levels of what you let in. So, when like you're tasting something, someone that's never tasted something before may like it or may not like it. As you develop your taste buds in any area, let's use wine, and I'm one of those, as I continue to, and I have been forever since I was 17, tasting wine and loving wine. But I've been to several blind tastings where every single time the wine I like the most is the most expensive. I have a refined palate for that sometimes. Now, that doesn't mean you would love it. It's just my experience. But when we refine ourselves, when we fine tune ourselves, when we know ourselves, we get to be more specific, which sometimes means we cut out a lot of stuff. It means we say no to more, which may look like protecting, but it's the right thing to do for us. Sometimes I can be around negative, victim-y, toxic people. Not for too long, but there's a certain point in time where I just feel bad for them because I can feel their pain. But they're not people that want help. So at a certain point, especially me, I have to say, okay, thank you. And I have to walk away because I don't want to sit in someone drowning in their negative energy and their beliefs that the world is terrible and that nothing's ever going to change and it's toxic and it's awful. I don't believe that. I can respect that they do, but that's not the frequency I want to be around. So I'm just going to quickly run through the categories of these again. There's physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, which really could have been its own show, verbal boundaries, time boundaries, work boundaries, spiritual boundaries, financial boundaries, and sexual boundaries. But with the sexual boundary, I'd also encourage with all of them that you're looking for connection. If you are in a safe, committed relationship, whether it be monogamous or not, I don't care, but safe, committed relationship, and it's all permission-based, whether it's a boundary, I don't want you to come in feeling like you have to protect yourself because that causes disconnection. Find ways to understand how to communicate and how to connect with the other person so everyone feels safe. And do what you need to do. Take it slowly. Ask questions. Learn a little bit about people and sort of how they think, their love languages. And if you're someone who struggled for a while with feeling unsafe in the world, please consider coming to the Embodied Healing Intensive. I can't guarantee you're going to feel completely safe in the world all the time, but I promise that we're going to start to look at where you hold that in your body and how we can release it. And if you're thinking about, because you missed the opportunity, about doing a rewire program, the next one will be in January, because you really will get a lot of value out of understanding your core wounds, your core wound patterns, your core wound map, and how to rewire your core wound patterns. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that for those of you that asked for this boundary conversation, that this has given you some inspiration, some clarity, some ideas about what to do. The most important thing, I think, for all of it with the emotional boundaries is you have to take responsibility for your own emotions. That is the first point in this. And if you That doesn't mean that other people have not done bad things. But if we allow it in, if we accept it, if we keep staying and it keeps happening, that's on us. And I say that with love, and I say that with compassion, because I want you to get your power back. I want you to take it away from anyone you've given it to. I want you to know that you get to create your own reality however you want it to be. And it's an inside job. And you're the creator. So go to download that feelings and needs list and see where you are with the needs that need to get met. jjflizanes.com/feelings list. Thank you for today. Go get your ticket to the Embodied Healing Intensive or reach out to me so I can help you get there.